Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Discourse for the week of April 12th, 2021. The Discourse is our weekly news show here at the NYU Game Center, the game design department at New York University. Each week, Professors Frank Lance and Naomi Clark talk about game industry news and give us their scorching hot takes. Take it away, Frank and Naomi.
Hello. Good to see all of you.
Thank you,
Frank,
Logan.
you're
Hi,
coming
Naomi.
to us. You're coming to us live from a car today.
I am in my car at the Westchester Arts Center, and I'm here to bring Hillary for her second vaccine shot, because we know the second shot can sometimes be a little bit rough. So I wanted to escort her here and back. So that's the. Hopefully, it'll be good. This is not the first time that I've dialed in from my car. I believe. Maybe about a year ago, I did one of those. And remember, I was surrounded by Trump supporters at one point. There was like a parade or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was extremely exciting in a bad way. This is hopefully a more sedate experience this time.
Yeah, it's going to be chill. But if you're in Westchester, if you're a fan of the show, come on by and jump on camera with me. So
yeah, just look for a Subaru with Frank in it. Yeah. All right, let's go to our first story. We're starting.
We got a lot of good stuff. We got a lot of good stuff. I'll tell you what we don't have this week, Naomi, is sports.
Yeah.
We have
there's
art.
No sports this week.
Yeah, we've got art, business, politics, maybe even a little bit of crypto, but no sports. So I just want to throw that out there. I apologize for everybody who tunes in for the latest news in the world of sports.
We're not good at coming up with our own sports news. So if you are a sports news aficionado, you have to send links our way, and then we'll talk about it. Oh, we've already got a suggestion that you. Yeah, we've already got a suggestion, Frank, that you should drive to where that stop sign is and get on the stop sign stream.
I am currently driving. I'm being very careful, but I am in traffic. You go ahead. You go ahead.
It's live, everybody. All right, let's go to the first story. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is McDonald's games. This was a weird thing I stumbled across. This is what the AV Club's food vertical, Takeout. They're doing a whole series of articles about video games this week, because that's a thing that that blogs and websites do these days, I guess. And the best article they had was this. Going through the history of official McDonald's games, some of which are kind of what you would expect, right? Some of them are like Ronald McDonald running in a platformer, shooting enemies with a McDonald's gun that shoots burgers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then some of them are super weird. Yeah, like at least half of them. There's one just like straight up, Super Mario 3 clone. Some of them look better than others, but the real gems here, I think, in my opinion, are the ones that are training games. And there are two different McDonald's training games. And interestingly, a bunch of these are Japanese too, right? Like, I guess it's just more likely that the Japanese office of McDonald's will be like, sure, make a licensed video game of us, right? So this is McDonald Land.
It's Donald McDonald, by the way.
Donald McDonald.
Donald McDonald.
That's right. Exactly, and it's called Donald Land.
Yeah, and who can forget the Donald Land characters, like the professor, right? Who's your favorite character? Is it the professor? That's mine.
It's for sure the professor. But it sounds like the standout from this was actually this eCrew development program, which is the Japanese employee training program that you can get via emulation, and that it's actually kind of fun to sort of go through the various training exercises. And then there's also a fake, not fake, but like a training program that's meant for like entertainment purposes only. And that's maybe the weirdest sounding one. It's called McDonald's Monogatari Honobono Tensho Ikusei game, which means McDonald's story, wholesome management training game. And
this one was made by Paolo Perticini, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, like as we all know, Paolo Perticini specializes in making McDonald's games.
The guy's got to eat. Some people knock him for that. They say he's playing both sides of the fence. I say the guy's got to eat.
You make one anti-McDonald's game, then I think that actually was part of the settlement with him, that he had to make a bunch of pro-McDonald's games.
Exactly. Who's the hidden hero of this story? Jason Scott. Is that his name? Did I get his name correct? Jason Scott is the Internet Archive, the guy who runs the Internet Archives. I believe his name is Jason Scott. Yeah. And all of these things exist, I think, to a large degree because that guy does things without permission and just is doing an amazing job of archiving every little weird, rare thing that he can get his hands on and making them available just on the internet. You know, you don't have to be a collector.
Shout out to the emulation community in general, and thank you, Salty Horse. The person who actually runs the Internet Archive apparently is Brewster Kale.
I think Jason Scott is the
archivist,
most in charge of the games stuff.
Awesome,
sort of archivist. Yeah.
All right, so Logan, we're looking at the actual training game right now, right? This is it's surprisingly compelling. This looks like it's like a Nintendo DS game, right?
I think it was for the DS. You know, it's funny that the ones that were designed to be entertaining are garbage, and the one that was supposedly the serious game is probably kind of entertaining and interesting.
I think there's something there. Well, also it has full motion video of making McDonald's sandwiches, which is of course what you would want if you're somebody who wants to play a McDonald's game. You want to see this McMuffin being assembled as part of your play experience. I
think the lesson here is maybe that look, serious games are by and large junk. We all know that. But here's the thing that is undervalued: truth. The truth of the fact that there's an ingredient in this training video, the video, the reality that it captures, this little slice of reality of it. That's what makes these things, I think, feel special and worth paying attention to.
Right. So thank God for the coming FMV renaissance, maybe, or maybe did it already pass by? All right, let's go to the next. Came and went. Let's go to the next story.
We're into PS2 graphics now.
That was that's right.
2018. Everyone was back on FMV. Now we like PS2 graphics.
Speaking of high-res graphics, Lil Nas X also released a game to go with Montero, his revolutionary gay Satan sex pole dancing game. So not only did it release shoes with blood in it, but also a game where you shake your butt. And of course, at the Game Center, we were really surprised and upset that somehow Robert Yang wasn't involved in this.
You know how you can tell? You know how you can tell that Robert Yang was not involved in this game? The game is terrible.
Yeah, it would be so much better. I just want to say. I mean, Robert would have put a lot of time. Like, you just, he doesn't have to develop the whole game, but you should at least hire him as a consultant. Do your research, pay respect. Yeah. It's not great, right? There's a lot of but the butt movement there. There's some real jiggle physics going on.
The butt movement is fine, but I think what you're doing, which is like this very by the numbers kind of rhythm action thing, where you're trying to hit these, trying to hit these things as they come in. That's just not particularly interesting. But I was really interested. This made me wonder what's up with the lawsuit. So I went and looked. Because the story behind this collaboration is Mischief. I don't know if you know about Mischief before this happened, Naomi. Mischief is this, so they're this weird little
the shoemakers. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have known it was pronounced that way.
Yeah, Mischief is like a little kind of underground marketing / counter marketing. They're like a hipster agency that does these kind of media stunts that are that they call drops, and you can get the kind of Mischief app, and every week I don't know how they do it because they do so much stuff, and many of their projects are genuinely interesting, like genuinely weird and interesting. They're kind of surfing the edge of legality and getting sued and constantly, so they're making things where they take different brands and stitch them together, and they do these like weird interventions, and they just it's an art project, but it's also like a little marketing firm. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a great combo. Kind of. Well, what's great is like, obviously it's a real coup for them to get sued by.
I don't know where I land on this, but it seems like it got settled. Basically, they settled the lawsuit. They had done an earlier version where they were angel shoes, And their claim was like, "Hey, well, it didn't bother you when we did angel shoes. Now we're doing
that was
shoes.
Jesus shoes, even slightly
and
more
so
blasphemous.
they had this whole like, but they have this press release where like, look, it's settled now. We're gonna do a voluntary recall of both sets of fake Nike shoes. Yeah, it's a recall basically.
Oh
and
man, I heard that there was a restraining order, but that all but one pair had already been sold and sent out, and so but they're actually gonna have to get them back.
Yeah, the thing I liked about it was at the end of their press release where they announced how they had settled this case, there was just one line of text which was, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." So that was kind of nice.
Nice. Wait, so I'm really confused. So how does a recall legally work? They're going to send out a notice to be like, "I'm sorry, these shoes you bought are illegal. Please send them back."
I think the way a recall works is that it's a fig leaf that allows everyone to step away from the lawsuit, and no one cares. They're like, "Yes, we acknowledge that you've slapped our hand with a ruling, and we promise not to do it again. And this is just a gesture."
I think it's perfect. It's perfect for an art collective like Mischief. This is kind of exactly what you want to have happen, right? If you're going to make Satan shoes, a whole bunch of Republicans get mad and yell like about culture war stuff that pretty much nobody pays attention to except for like militant Christians who are going to be mad anyway. And then, and there's a spurious lawsuit that results in you having to do nothing but send out a letter to your 665 customers saying like, "Please send those shoes back."
Yeah,
gosh.
Exactly. Do we have any Satanists in the chat? I don't know where Satanism is at now. Is it a thriving little? Is it a fake religion? Is it a real religion?
No, I mean, it's a real.
There's some people that take it very seriously. And then
exactly,
for other people,
it's as real for many people. It's as real as any religion, certainly.
Yeah,
and then,
I think for the majority of Satanists, it's not. It's my guess, but I don't know. I'm not a Satanist,
I don't know. I think that's part
like,
of Satanism. That's part of Satanism. Is that
it's a little? Yeah, it's a little bit like being like in a Church of the Subgenius, or being a Yellowist, the art movement, or being a Neoist, the art movement, where there's a sense of tongue in cheek. Like a critique,
or at least there's playfulness, and it's sort of like, well, they're an anti-religion. It's sort of inherently
exactly,
right? But there are a bunch of people who take it seriously as a matter of practice, and like the practice of religion is maybe the substantial part. I don't know, but they're still around. I don't know if they're exactly, all that good old Aleister Crowley stuff. But I don't know. Like, would I consider it a I would be friends with Satanists. I think I have been friends with Satanists, although I don't know. A lot of them got out of it. They're like, I was. Yeah, there must be. I don't know. Like, shout out if you are a Satanist. Let's continue on. I don't think the Satanists. I guess they probably did appreciate the shoes. Oh, okay. So this was an interesting article. A roundup. Again, this is from the AV Club. A roundup of intersections between live theater and games. And so this was from the point of view of people trying to do theater during the pandemic. And we kind of knew this was going on. I think we caught a whiff of it like earlier in the last year, right? But this is somebody looking into various performance companies and playwrights kind of like putting on performances that have a game-like element, especially like ones that are being done virtually during the pandemic. And so they range from stuff like, here's a choose your own adventure version of a performance where we let the audience like vote on what should happen, all the way to sort of like more escape roomy type experiences. I'm almost actually the Cherry Orchard, this one struck me as maybe the most interesting one, because there's actually a virtual space you wander around where you encounter characters from the Cherry Orchard.
Wasn't there another Chekhov one? Didn't Winnie Song's
Winnie's sister.
Winnie Song's sister. Was it Chekhov?
It was Chekhov. I'm not sure if it was the Cherry Orchard or a different game, but she reenacted it in The Sims. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Chekhov's Wi-Fi router. It's like this rule that you have to do when you do an online theater thing. It has to be Chekhov. Or if you mention Chekhov, then you have to do an online theater thing.
I think it's somehow particularly well suited to these to a reenactment in a weirdly different space.
Yeah, because it's kind of stiff and
it's very self-contained. It has lots of tropes of like,
and it's very theatery. It's
I
like, this
wonder
is
what
the
they're
play.
doing in Paris right now. Will Papa ever come back? We'll
Yeah.
have to cut the flowers down in the garden. Let's have some more
Oh,
tea. I don't know. And just
ooh.
kind of remix all that stuff.
I kind of want to know what happens.
So, but yeah, so I don't know. It's nice to see this stuff, and I always have this feeling, and maybe this is like hoity-toity of me, but like, why don't you have more people from games involved, please? Like, there's a lot of smart people doing stuff with LARP and interactive theater that goes beyond, Sleep No More, who are thinking about like how to do these well, because the criticisms in this article are like, some of these experiments just completely fell over because nobody could agree on what to do next, and there was no structure. It's like, well, this is not something that's uncharted territory, right? But I guess it's one of these multidisciplinary problems where, somebody who knows a little bit about games is like, what we could do? We could just do this in a game-like way, and then they're not bothering to collaborate with anyone from games.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we shouldn't expect that. I don't know.
I have mixed feelings about this, Naomi, because on the one hand, it's I know what you say, and it's true. And it's also the case that most people, when they're doing a thing, are not as well informed about the history of the thing that they're doing as they could be. Right.
Yeah,
so
of course, but it's not a good thing, right?
That's like ubiquitous, and that's true of game designers as well as these theater people. But on the other hand, I like when people who aren't steeped in this tradition or experts are just doing a thing. I think that we should encourage people to just do things, even if it means maybe like retreading some of the same territory.
Oh yeah, it's better than not doing it. It's better than not doing it. I'm happy to hear about them doing it. Yeah.
Here's what I will say to our interactive theater friends in our community, the people who LARP and are already doing experiments in this field. Your job is to do work that gets this attention. And the fact that we're reading this article about these people is the fact that they were good at getting this article written about their work, right? That's part of the job. You have to do that part. And if you do that well enough, then your work does become well known. The fact that you've solved these problems will be absorbed into the work that other people are doing. So it's kind of on us. It's on you. It's on the people who are working in this field to get their work out there.
Boxes, right? It's hard because there's a bunch of boxes. There are a lot of amazing LARPs that have a lot of these techniques like that work really well, but they're within the box of LARP, and they're like well known as LARPs, which means they're not recognized because semantically they're not in the same category as performance. And actually, Milan is pointing out another example. So the Tempest, the VR show from the Under presents this Tempest. I think it's a Tender Claws thing, right? Is a VR live performance, but it's not in this article in part because it's not live human actors whose faces you see, right? Like from what I understand of that, it's a digital performance, and then like with 3D models, right? So somehow that is like semantically in a different category for people. And I guess this is just comes with the territory when you're out like in the murky borderlands, right? People are like, I don't know how to think of this thing. Doesn't fit into these boxes. Therefore, it's hard to figure out how to write about it or who to tell about it or in what context it should receive attention. Yeah.
I don't know this world super well, but I've heard that in LA, there's like a whole scene of people who are basically screenwriters, who can't get work on TV shows, who can't get movies done, and that there's like a kind of a cottage industry of these kind of hybrid LARP-like things, Punch Drunk style.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, some of them have been entered in Indiecade. There were some have appeared in Indiecade from time to time.
And I love that. I love the fact that it's this little scene that's happening. I think we have our version of it here in the East Coast. Of course, Europe is the motherland for this kind of really sophisticated approach.
Sure, and they really blend. They really blend the genres over there much more than we do here.
The Nordic LARP scene. But I think it's great that people are now trying to figure out how to do this online, and more power to them.
Yeah, more experiments, please. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. What do we have?
Ooh, it's business time. Welcome to business talk.
Diving into business. So
this is where people come for advice, for news about the industry. They really want to get their ducks in a row. When it comes to the practical business of making money in video games industry, Naomi and I have got you covered.
How do you be a video game tycoon? Here's how.
Okay.
First, just burn a whole bunch of money, like assemble a war chest by launching Fortnite. And then if you're Tim Sweeney, get this huge, it's called a war chest because you literally just fire it out of a cannon. And that's what Epic has been doing with their money. I don't know if you...
Explain this one, Naomi. So Epic has lost a lot of money. How surprised should we be by this?
Like, so it's not surprising at all, right? Like,
this is just normal, right? We should look at Epic, the game store.
I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. That's like, whenever you look at the figures, you're like, wow, that's a bunch of money. And the next couple of years are also expected to be like losing more money on the scale. So it's when you see the figures, you're like, oh, the scale of this is pretty big. Because it's hundreds of millions of dollars. It may get up to like close to $1 billion spent. And this is basically the cost to try and take on Steam, right? Like, the Tim Sweeney and Epic were like, hey, let's try and take on Steam, and we got to burn a bunch of money to do it.
Help me out here, Naomi, because I had trouble understanding this. I had the same feeling as you, which is, oh, this is what I would expect. If you're going to get into a hotly contested marketplace at this scale where the payoff is potentially enormous. Yeah, you're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars doing it. But my follow-up thought was, wait a minute, they're selling video games. Like, how do you lose that much money? What's going on?
Have you been on the Epic store? They're not selling video games.
I mean, what are they like? Are they losing money with every game they sell, or is it just that they're funding the development?
Okay, so
is that where all this money is going?
They're funding a huge amount of development, right? And I think this is the reason that it's useful to talk about this in the context of our small little world of people making smaller games, is that it's useful to know when this kind of thing is going on. It's like giant waves crashing towards the shore, and if you're on your little surfboard, you're like, oh my gosh, Epic Games is literally loading bales of money into a cannon and firing the money out of the cannon. Maybe I should try and like get in the way of some of that or something, right? And so I mean, Epic is not just doing this here. They're also putting out these Epic mega grants. I don't know how tied that is to the store. It's possible in my mind that maybe some of it is, right? Because it's anything that gets attention and customers for the store is part of the store, right? So they're building a new product from the ground up. That's expensive. They're doing all of these exclusives and funding that. And they are not probably doing tremendous numbers in sales, in part because they're just giving away tons and tons of games in order to try and secure new customers. So they're paying a lot for every customer who like signs up and downloads the Epic Game Store app, right? So that I assume is where all the money is going, and they're just not making as much as you would think off the store.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Still, it's a lot of money.
And interestingly, this article says, well, they're expecting to turn a profit in 2023, but this sounds like an optimistic scenario. I was like, whoa, okay. Like from that, I didn't read the court filing, but I assume that's like even that, like it might be a while. So I don't know. It's probably good for insofar as any of these gigantic behemoths dueling scenarios is good for the small developers. It's good for this kind of foment to be going on, and people's throwing money out there to try and compete at the store level. It's better than having a pure monopoly of Steam. It does seem like,
all things being equal, platform wars are good for developers and players.
Right. The players part is the debatable point, but I don't know. Like with this, I used to feel like, okay, platform wars, I understand why players are annoyed with it, and like the idea that like, oh, you'd have to buy a different console to get a game that you want to play. It's frustrating, especially for people who don't have a lot of money to spend. But now the platform wars are like, I don't want to have to download another store app and install it on my computer. It's like, shut up. Like even Bennett is on this. He's like, oh, it's so nice just having my Steam library and all my games in one place. What? Like, That's like,
Even
you
then.
know, like, what level of lazy consumerism is that? Like, I don't know, but that's all that we have left for like these consumer advantages, right? That's why Stadia and all of the cloud services are like, well, you don't even have, you can just keep playing the same game when you're sitting on the toilet. Just take your iPad and keep playing. That's a must-have feature now, right? And it's like, I guess we ran out of anything else for these for stores and services.
Of playing a game while you're on the toilet, our next article, it might be
this is wow, Elon Musk fans rejoice. Do you know someone who just drools every time Elon Musk or a company associated with him does anything?
No, all of my friends hate Elon Musk with a passion.
Wait, what about?
I don't know anybody who likes Elon Musk.
What about John Blow? Doesn't John Blow still like Elon Musk?
I'm sure John Blow likes Elon Musk. I would not consider John Blow like a close friend. I like John Blow.
You know him.
We're friendly. We are friendly. I don't think John Blow listens to the show, so shout out to John Blow. But no, I would not consider John Blow like a close friend. All the people I talk to on a regular basis hate Elon Musk.
Are not. Yeah,
I don't hate Elon Musk that much because I try not to hate. I don't want to have hate in my heart for people. But I would say that I'm not surrounded. I don't know many people who are big.
Every time I hate Elon Musk, I have the sensation that I'm wasting my time because it's like, why am I even paying attention to him? It is sort of, he's extremely rich and has no taste whatsoever. That's like basically, what
he's got bad taste. It's different from not having any taste whatsoever.
Yeah, you're right. He has really bad taste. There's lots of rich people who have no taste. And
I would say Bill Gates has no taste.
That's true, yeah. And
I think Elon Musk has bad taste. You know what I mean? Like he likes memes.
It's true. He's a really
memes.
It's somehow
I think that's about it.
But okay, let's talk about this. So people are amazed that this monkey is playing video games with its mind. Okay. It's not actually amazing. It's pretty old science that you can do this. You don't have to put a chip in somebody's mind. You could like put a headset on and play Pong with your brain. Like a human being can do that right now, right? It's maybe a little bit hinky compared to having a chip installed in your brain, but they put a chip into this monkey's brain.
They put a chip in a chimp.
Yeah. Wait, actually, is it a chimp?
I don't know.
I don't think I think it might be a macaque.
I think it's a macaque.
Yeah. I should know better. Having been raised, I used to have to like hang out after school in a primate center at the University of Washington.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let's sit there and play with a little cell counter.
I believe you're right that in terms of the science here, this science is not new. So I think that they've been doing similar stuff for decades, actually. And it's genuinely interesting. It's good. But the idea that this is a big breakthrough is not true. What I think what Neurolink is good at is the technical execution side. So I think the hardware here is particularly good. The fact that it's wireless is impressive. And then the marketing piece, that, they're just whatever. They're just good at getting attention on these things and getting people to look at them for the first time. But this is, I think NASA has a patent on this that's like, from 1994 or something on similar kinds of techniques. So It's been around for a while.
So the real talk is like Neuralink is this company that's probably mostly focused on this type of technology for disabled people, right? Who might actually need to use their brain to control various things, and that would be great for some people. It's not, but I think Milan is pointing out that Gabe Newell of Valve is actually the person who's most interested in using this type of thing for gaming, right? Like they're looking into brain computer interfaces for gaming, although I suspect it's not like implant a chip in your brain. It's more like the headset kind that I was talking about.
I played a long time ago. I played a game called Journey to Wild Divine. Have you ever seen this game, Naomi?
No.
It's one where it's like, you have a headband and you got a little thing on your finger and it's checking your pulse and your skin galvanic response. Right. And it was basically like Myst. It was like a version of Myst that you played with your mind. Like if you relaxed, then you could make the stones levitate and you could solve puzzles by just relaxing. It was awesome. It was pretty good. I think. Right.
I played there was a recent puzzle game like that. Now I don't remember the name of it, but just a few years ago that was sort of making the rounds at festivals and stuff too, where it was like, put on a headset and do that. The ones I really like are where you can control a mouse and make it go up and down and left and right.
Yeah, it's funny because we have this notion of what's natural in terms of interfaces with computers and with computer games, and it's just what we're used to. But it's this, and Brett Victor, who is a computer scientist that I really like, makes this point, and it's the centerpiece of his research and his work, is wanting to broaden the spectrum of ways that we interact with computers. Because when we think, we actually do it in this very full spectrum way. We think with our hands, with our bodies, with other people, with objects in a room, arranging things. We think with whiteboards, drawing diagrams, with our voice and our eyes, looking and seeing and pointing and touching and rearranging. And when we interact with computers, we do it through this tiny little narrow channel of linguistics and geometry, right? Where we're just like, point this tiny little channel. And so I think it's less about, for me, the exciting thing here is less about closing the gap and getting some kind of pure form of direct interaction, and it's more about widening the spectrum of interactions to bring us back to what our brains are good at, which is thinking in spaces and with bodies with other people.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Not just locating the intelligence in one particular circuit. Right. And I don't know. I'm interested in seeing where this stuff goes. What I get depressed by is the degree to which so much of this stuff seems to be motivated, like the attention on it, and maybe even Elon Musk's funding decisions are motivated by like wanting to make things like Neuromancer. Right. It's like,
yeah, but that's just the way it works. Science fiction,
I guess,
inspires scientists. It always has, and it always will.
Why is it always
part of the same loop.
Like, just read some more science fiction. Like, think about it from more than one angle. Don't just sort of harp on the same thing over and over again.
I mean, at least Neuromancer is better than Ready Player One.
Okay,
I think Neuromancer is better than the Neil Stephenson stuff too. I never liked the Neil Stephenson stuff as a vision for the future. At least Neuromancer has the Rastafarian, satellites and space stations, and a genuine sense of how kind of like weird and interesting and surprising the kind of cultural ramifications.
You didn't like the Neil Stephenson like underwater habitat, like hive consciousness hippie like commune, because that was like his version of that, I guess. But it was sort of like nothing happened there.
Yeah,
but yeah, agreed on Ready Player One.
Here's the thing about this monkey though. How does he stack up with the pig? So if you had like
let's get the pig up
here. What
about
an e-sport where we take all of these poor animals that have been forced to play video games, and we have a big tournament. I am going to go out on a limb and say my money is on the crow.
Yeah, you
don't hear much about the crow.
The crow is pretty good.
Don't sleep on the crow.
When I was in college, I had a psych professor who had spent a long time doing similar types of exercises in the 50s and 60s with missile guidance systems and pigeons. That pigeons were really good at playing missile guidance systems. Like, what could go wrong?
Literally,
exactly. The Pentagon. He used to rant. He used to be like, "Oh, the Pentagon just shut us down." They were like, "Nobody will ever agree to let pigeons guide missiles," and everyone was like, "Yeah, gosh, I wonder why." But he was like, "They were much better at it and more accurate than humans. Be in charge? They're more responsible than humans."
You know who should be in charge of the missile defense program? ITP. We get some people from ITP in there, and they can do something. I'm sure it'll work fine.
Sure, why not? And as long as it involves animals. So I want to root for the pig, but I think, I probably also agree. It's like birds are probably someone in the bird family.
And I believe that you can now hire one of these animals to play video games for you. So I'm thinking about doing that. I'm going to get either a pig or a monkey and train them to play all my video games. Free me up for doing other stuff. Like maybe I'll try out one of these books I've heard so much about.
Exactly. Good. You could get further in Loop Hero that way, I think. If you just let the animal decide where to place all the little lands.
Yeah. Still bouncing off that game so hard. All right. Let's talk about patents.
Oh, patents. Yeah. Okay. So this was a great article on Waypoint. I'll always like to give a shout out to Waypoint. This is a cool roundup of interesting video game patents examples. It was occasioned by the fact that apparently the Shadow of Mordor Nemesis system, which generates this procedural, orc who hates your guts and is always getting slightly better than you, it is going to get a successful patent, which everyone is concerned really may stifle innovation in that area. It probably means that, I don't know, for companies that have really paranoid lawyers, it might do that, and everybody else is just going to have to think harder about how to not violate that patent.
Everyone else is going to ignore it, which is what you do with patents in video games, because you can't patent game mechanics. This is the basic rule, which I think still holds. And every time they let one through where somebody snuck through a game mechanic that they tried to patent, it's a mistake, it's stupid, but also just to ignore it.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything. I mean, in theory, a lawyer could come after you if a big corporation files a patent, right? And that's what lawyers get paid to do, is be like, I don't want those other lawyers could come and get us. We might give them an opening. Therefore, I'm going to tell you to stop doing this.
The preemptive patent where we're just doing it to protect ourselves from other people attacking us. It's just, that's a bad equilibrium to slip into. But if you look at even the one in the article that they talk about did result in a legal case, which was the floating arrow above the car.
Right, that's right, in Crazy Taxi. Yeah.
Then the people who made the Simpsons Road Rage used the same arrow. But and then they got in trouble and they had to settle. But the thing they don't mention in that article is that Simpsons Road Rage is just the game Crazy Taxi. It's just a complete ripoff. It's a copy. It's a carbon copy of Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, and so they were trying to. Yeah, so they were trying to use the patent as here's big evidence as to why we're right. And I guess in that case it was okay, they use the patent to protect themselves against something that's really maybe almost closer to copyright infringement.
But I don't think anyone else ever got in trouble for the floating arrow. And now if you see a floating arrow in a game, it's just whatever.
A lot of this is the patent lawyers justifying their own jobs, and also companies being able to say, hey, look, we have this very valuable thing, a patent. We've increased our shareholder value or whatever, right?
Exactly. No, it's marketing and it's business marketing for other businesses. Right. Also, Road Rage is a great game. Crazy Taxi is a great game, but also Road Rage is amazing.
But do you think that this has maybe prevented other companies from making more games in this genre because of the lawsuit that popped up? Would we be seeing more Crazy Taxi style games if not for this legal action?
Maybe. I don't think we're living through some kind of weird desert of Crazy Taxi clones that would otherwise be a golden
probably
age of Crazy
right.
Taxi.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I think Burnout is scratching that itch for most people.
Probably true. Danny Houck wants you to know that he's announcing his next game. It's called Drop 8.
Oh, you'll hear from my lawyers.
Yes. And speaking of which, this already came up in chat, but yes, I do in fact have a patent that I don't think will ever get exercised, but it amuses me to think of it being used. Because I'm named as one of the inventors on the block building system that basically is what runs games like Minecraft and Roblox, right?
Go to this patent,
the patent.
and look at the bottom of the patent. I think we have a link to the patent itself, right?
My name's on the bottom. I'm one of the people on this patent.
It's Naomi Clark. If you go all the way to the bottom, say here's the list of people.
Woo.
So I know this seems this is canon. This is we're not making this up. This is not.
It's a real patent.
Canon.
Yeah,
this
and so
the Discourse canon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to me. I don't think Lego is ever gonna try to sue Microsoft. I guess they would have to sue Microsoft at this point, right? Because it would just be too much of a pain in the ass. It's it would be really expensive to try and talk about how this patent does or doesn't apply to the version in Minecraft that doesn't have little Lego studs, right? It just has corners that,
What if we settled this with a candy eating contest between you and Notch?
Oh, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and we do.
But I forfeit preemptively.
It's a mischief drop. It's Notch X Clark, and it's how much candy. We get one of those big Perspex tubes.
I nominate my colleague Ronnie, who managed to get his name on there first. He's still a bigwig at Lego. Ronnie is there's the first.
Oh, you say he can put away the candy?
Ronnie Scherer, Ronnie Scherer. He'll take it.
Is this a
Yeah,
subtle dig at Ron?
no,
Likes
I'm
to
just
put away
like
the candy?
he's the one who's really motivated. He's
Oh, okay, to eat candy.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and to beat Notch. Actually, he has a beef with Mojang. He tried to they tried to do a deal, and they kind of ghosted on him. So,
All right, let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Yeah.
Illegal.
Oh, yeah. Still, I don't know what's going on. Like Brazil is joining a number of countries that have now really tried to crack down on loot boxes, and this is a blanket like don't do this kind of gambling in a game. And of course, there's always ways to try and get around it. But at what point do we see the end of the loot box era, if ever? Is it strong enough that it'll be an arms race of legislation versus addictive gambling mechanics, or is the mobile game industry and gotcha game industry going to somehow move beyond this stage because of the pressure from governments? I'm starting to wonder. I don't know. If I had to bet, I would say probably loot boxes win. Governments
here's
lose.
how I think about this stuff. It's yes, these things are psychological devices, but they're also content in a game. And as content in a game, they are subject to the same sort of deep, profound whimsy of all fashion, style, culture content, right? Which means that you could take this same, like what happened was people named this psychological device a loot box. And then they made them look like little boxes and they function like little boxes. But there's no reason that you have to you'd have to show them as boxes or make them look like 3D boxes. You could use the same underlying pattern of intermittent reward or stochastic payoff and just call it something else. And no one in Brazil is going to know to throw you in jail, right?
Well, we're at the beginning. We're at the beginning of some cycle, right? Where legislators writing this legislation don't understand it very well. But the same thing happened with data privacy, right? For a long time, it was like legislators couldn't figure out how to define what was going on online in a way that would like protect the things that they wanted to protect. But then eventually the EU got around to like writing the mammoth GDPR, which made Facebook really upset.
Right. But see, that's the difference. That's the difference between a game and Facebook in a way. Like there are these underlying principles of like what should we make illegal as the actual pattern, as the actual play pattern. And then there's just the idea that loot boxes are the thing that players like them to be called loot boxes. Developers called them loot boxes. But I think now, to your original point, I think we're kind of moving away from that. I don't think players like loot boxes anymore because they're kind of like,
it's going to shift
your older
into
brother
else.
would do. And we like battle passes now, right? So it's just
and some other stuff. It's
just going to go away because it's no longer even a popular way to do it.
Right. It'll be some other form of gambling.
And you can't craft legislation to do the thing that we want it to do. Which is to make people have a moral responsibility towards their players. To make people take seriously the ethical charge that when you are designing an experience, it should be something that creates value for the people who play the game, not something that destroys lives. You can't craft legislation to do that. You can't.
There's no way to spell
There's no way to do it. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's not the domain in which law is the tool we should be using to solve the problem. Right.
Yeah, so
that
there's going to be some
art and design, and
there are going to be some cones on the side of the road. Is what these laws are, right? They're like, don't drive over this cone, don't drive over that cone, right?
Yeah,
but,
it's
ultimately
also
you can't really make people not drive.
It's just out of it. Parents telling us to be careful.
Sure. I'm just wondering whether they're going to catch up. Whether is Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, well, she has better things to think about, but is she going to be like, okay, let's sit down and actually talk about like what's bad about these?
I would hope that AOC would roll her eyes if someone came at her with some loot box legislation. It's like, we've got bigger, more important fish to fry than loot boxes.
Yeah, I agree.
Which again, it's just not to say that the underlying thing isn't important. It's the most important thing. It's the most important thing about design is like, what are you putting out in the world? Are you making the world a better place with the work that you do and the technology that you make and the art that you make? I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying that it's like not something that you're going to get your elected officials to solve for you by implementing some bill.
Yeah, exactly. let's keep on going. What do we have?
Games for
are we still
Change.
business? Oh, Games for Change. Yeah. So I still, this is in the business section because this is part of the section of the industry. The nonprofit industrial complex has expanded into a new area. And Games for Change has launched in conjunction with the Department of State. They got one of these, a big Department of State grant that is going to fund programs for high school students to make games internationally, right? So this is, I don't know, it's kind of a big deal. It's across lots of different countries.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah, and so I don't know. This is an interesting development. It's not totally surprising. I guess it represents an expansion of the kind of thing that, we have seen for years. With people like Barry Joseph have been doing this kind of thing for a really long time, right? Saying, oh, hey, we should teach kids about issues and have them connect with people in other parts of the world and make games. That's what led to this game Aidi that a bunch of local New York area developers worked on a game lab.
Shout out to Barry. Shout out to Susanna Pollock, who is involved in this. This is a big coup for her. We have lots of connections with the Games for Change folks, and so this is a nice whale fall for some people, right? We're going to be.
I agree. I mean, it's useful to know, especially if you're an educator or if you've ever taught or adjuncted a class about teaching students to make games, especially high school students, right? Because this represents an expansion of that kind of thing, right? And here's my hot take about this. This is better than making another web or mobile game about an issue, again, that kind of Game for Change.
Yeah, I agree. Although I think under the hood, these games are supposed to be about issues. It's not just that they're funding.
The point is not that they're putting it out there on a website. The point is that students are making it together, right?
That's the important thing. I totally agree, and that's what makes this good. 100%.
Right. So international teams of students learning how to make games and then making games about honestly, it's a little bit about whatever they want, but it's also sort of guided towards international understanding. It's whatever. It's a very abstract idea. It's not a concrete issue. It's not politically hard hitting. But the point is not we made an amazing op-ed piece, Ian Bogost game. It's these kids are making games together. So I'm more in favor of that than more.
Yeah, me too. Speaking of Ian Bogost, get the jar out, chat.
Oh boy,
we are about to go deep into Bogost territory here. Let's skip ahead to the Mario Kart rubber banding article. Right?
Yeah, we have to go there. Okay, this is yet another Waypoint article. Oh boy, this is good stuff. So this is there's an economist, right? I did not catch his name, who put out a paper basically saying we would have a fair economy if we looked at the blue shell in Mario Kart as an example of the kind of thing a fair, just economy should do. And of course, the blue shell is notorious as the thing that it takes down the leader, right? A peg.
Right.
But I guess in general, they're talking about rubber banding mechanics, or what some people call catch-up mechanics, or negative reinforcement loops, negative feedback loops. Sorry, right.
Right.
And saying, hey, why don't we have more of those in the economy? I don't know. This sort of also made me clutch my head, because it's sort of wrong-headed. This is a good example of using games to try and make a point about economics, and it's just not right. It's
really misses. It really.
This is a ludic fallacy part.
But it is very much the ludic fallacy. Sometimes things miss the mark so badly that they become really useful and valuable. I think this one is actually
it could
really,
be.
This is great food for thought, because of because this guy thinks he's got it so right, and he's so happy with this analogy. So this is a person who is talking about the economics of ecology sustainability. So he's talking about things like global warming and those issues, and the policies that he is trying to advocate for. He thinks he has this great analogies. Look, you like it when it happens in Super Mario Kart, so you're gonna love it when it happens in the real world. And then of course our longtime friend of the cast / whipping boy Ian Bogost got involved because he famously wrote about the kind of larger ramifications of the blue shell
Right, and
years
it's like
ago.
It's cited in this economist's work.
Yeah, so it's actually cited. And so we have this weird feeling of like, oh no, this isn't a good analogy. And it's useful to stop and think, okay, why isn't this a good analogy?
Yeah, that's the good part.
One of the things that I think is important to acknowledge is that, again, games are not devices. Games are works of culture, and all of the contents and all of the ingredients that go into Super Mario Kart, what they are there for is to produce drama. Like the blue shell, its goal is not to create well-being. It's not to maximize well-being.
It's not a tool for fairness at all. It's
the most amount of people, right? It's designed to maximize tension and suspense and drama. So it
creates the appearance. It creates the appearance of you don't know who is going to be first or second, right?
Right,
and it's really just about who's in first and second.
Yeah. What rubber banding does is it takes the space of possibilities and it crunches it down so it's more suspenseful. So it's harder to tell what the outcome is going to be, and you stay engaged and involved, and it's exciting for that reason. But that's not what we want our policies to do necessarily. Like you might suggest a policy, a law, or a new norm or a new custom or a new institution or a new social mechanism that maximizes drama. I don't think it's a good idea. I will vote against it because I think we should be doing something closer to maximizing the overall good, right? Maximizing the benefit. Now, what's also interesting is that nobody in this article talked about what you can learn from games in this context. And so, for example, there's this whole field called game theory, which emerged out of studying games and gave us terms that we can use to talk about these kinds of issues. Terms like Nash equilibrium and Pareto optimality, right?
Sure.
And or another thing that we could have talked about in this conversation is John Rawls' theory of justice and the idea of the original position, the veil of ignorance, where you make a decision about how you want to organize society. First, you forget who you are, you blank it out, you get all the people and you wipe their identities so that they're a blank slate. Then you show them a proposed setup of laws and policies, and you get them without knowing where they're going to end up in that society. They have to vote on the one that they like the best. And so that was John Rawls' suggestion, which is itself a kind of game. Like it's like a little rule set.
There's so many other possibilities.
It's a little party game,
Yeah. The thing is, why get stuck on a race, which is designed to maximize drama, right?
No one mentions the number one thing here is zero sum versus non-zero sum.
I know, yeah.
Society
it's frustrating.
That should be the headline of this entire article.
Yeah,
society is not zero sum. Civilization is not.
Think about the role of competition and cooperation, because society is also not a pure competition. Right? No. It's a whole bunch of nested layers of competition and cooperation.
Yeah, no, we are through society is the mechanism by which we all benefit from each other. It's the opposite of a race, right? And it has lots of things in it that are competition. It has things in it that are like races, but the whole human project is this giant non-zero sum thing where we are collectively producing value for each other.
Right, and so none of that is really questioned. It's just a handy metaphor. And then, interestingly, Ian Bogost's role in this article is to be that's not how the blue shell actually works. Which is it's a useful role because it's pointing out that the blue shell just rearranges things at the top. It doesn't really help people at the bottom. So here's what I wanted to say: the interesting way to talk about this game mechanic is in terms of variance control. That's the term that should be used in terms of catch-up mechanics, right? Because I think it was Richard Garfield and Scatafilias who made this example. True catch-up is really about controlling the amount of variance between first place and last place, or where do various outcomes end up. Do you want them to be really far apart, or do you want them to be closer together so that everybody has a sort of, I don't know, minimum threshold of well-being, even if it's still sort of competitive, right? And so that is kind of interesting, and of course it has relevance to things like like a welfare state, or like whatever we hold as minimum, minimum wages,
UBI,
basic incomes, things like that.
Yeah, and I think that is so true, Naomi, and actually that's a deep value that we should be discussing and debating, is what is our appetite for variance? Because not just as a society, what's your appetite for differences in where people end up, but as an individual in your own life, what is your appetite for variance? Because there's another aspect of games and gaming culture, which is the gambler, right? The figure of the gambler. The gambler is someone who has an appetite for variance, and by eating variance can make profit. You know what I mean? By just being willingness to have a taste for it, and being willing to like go out and eat other people's variance for them. Like, oh, I'll bet you on this, I'll bet you on that, and is willing to kind of ride that roller coaster. You can benefit, but like you shouldn't. But different people have different levels of taste for variance, and you shouldn't assume that there's one optimal one that just is natural that we should all subscribe to. No, we should be talking about this and negotiating where we want to end up in this approach to risk and variance.
Yeah, and instead of something we barely talk about at all.
Yep.
And just sort of like these very simplistic models pertain. All right, well, I guess we have around 5 more minutes?
We maybe 3 more minutes, and we didn't talk about the other kind of political economy thing, which was the DoorDash drivers who are collaborating to drive prices up.
I think this is interesting, because this is the kind of gaming the system that people are reduced to when they're atomized gig economy workers, right? Like these guys, instead of being able to form a union, which I don't know, maybe they're also working on that, but that's also very difficult to do, right? So the route they've chosen in the meantime is using a hashtag and a simple procedure of declining DoorDash assignments if they're too low paying, to try and create a pay floor for themselves.
Here's how it works. If you are a DoorDash driver, you can just say you can decline a job, and different jobs have different prices. If you decline a job, they increase what they're paying for it and send it to someone else. And so if a lot of people are declining low-paying jobs, there's like, you're basically like jacking the price up, and it's really clever, and it's actually really cool that they figured out that this is how it works. But the only way for them to do it successfully is to coordinate. So it becomes a coordination problem. This is very similar to game stonks. This is very similar, because what they're solving is the coordination problem of how do we all do that, and then who is the first to defect? Because eventually then someone's got to take, because you're incentivized to take that low paying once it gets inflated, but we all want to hold, So, and what they've done is, it's the technology is a hashtag and a website with some real bastard mods. Apparently, this website is like super toxic.
Right.
If you show up, like, you are going to get banned for even suggesting that maybe you should take a job.
Yeah, it's like the culture of one of these very strict Facebook groups that are in abundance now, right? Where it's like, okay, you are just straight out, you're out of here. You can't be part of this unless you like really hold the line. And I can understand all of that, but I don't know. It strikes me as so vulnerable. And this article points out a bunch of ways in which they could just be undermined very easily, because they're doing this all in public. They could be attacked easily by an influx of new people coming into the system.
The thing I thought of when I read the reports of how toxic this website is, where they do their coordination, it made me think about the relationship of the mob to traditional unions, and realizing, these things, there's an underlying social mechanic that causes these things to be associated, that it is in some ways a coordination problem. The mafia is a solution to a coordination problem that is of a particular type that's needed for collective action in these kinds of contexts where it's labor versus management.
Well,
it's really
I think notably, so this one of the people who was organizing this quit because they're like, okay, it's too toxic, it's too stressful, because it's all of the, we're back in the old days, maybe the mafia would have gone and like broken one guy's leg who was getting out of line, and you would sort of hear rumors about like what happened to Joey. Instead, it's all done like in posting, right? It's all done,
which is worse.
People yelling at each other online.
I'd rather have my leg broken, quite honestly.
Or somebody's leg is getting broken. You don't necessarily see it happening.
I'd rather have someone
else's leg
broken.
You see that very large gentleman in the back watching the meeting, and like that.
It's like hockey. It's like hockey. But we got to go because I think it's we got to let Mirabai go.
Yeah. Okay. We're wrapping up.
We're gonna wrap it up. Good one. I'm glad my phone connected. Chat. I'm sorry I wasn't able to type any zingers in the chat. Just imagine I said something really clever and funny in the chat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, next week we won't see you, but we'll see you the week after.
Oh, that's right. We're not doing
more
next
info.
Spring break.
That's right. Spring break. One whole day of spring break for NYU. So we won't be here. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for tuning in to The Discourse. Once again, your news hosts have been Naomi Clark and Frank Lance. I was your behind-the-scenes operator, Logan Clare. Graphics are by Winnie Song, and captioning was by Mirabai Knight of Stenonite Cart Services. We'll miss you on our singular spring break day next Monday. We'll see you in 2 weeks. See you next time.